guys,
Hi.
It is Jen.
And Ben.
And it's time for another episode of Ask Jen.
And Ben.
In today's episode, what are we going to talk about?
Young love.
Young love. I know we've talked to you guys a lot, many times, about how long we've been together, so we wanted to give you guys an opportunity to ask us questions about Jen and Ben, the early years. The glow of youth, the beauty.
Maybe not so much those things.
The acne.
Yeah.
The awkwardness.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get started.
Woo! How did Ben ask you on your first date? Well, way back in the day, we had this thing called AOL Instant Messenger. And Jen and I, we talked pretty regularly, right? It was like...
Daily.
Daily, yeah.
Every day. We were already good friends.
Yeah, we were locker buddies. So we would usually talk to each other after school each day, too. And it was something that a couple of my friends were like, oh, we see you talking to Jen a lot. You should ask her out to homecoming.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
There would just be times where we were talking and I felt like there was a little bit of a connection. And then
I was oblivious.
So I asked Jen what she thought a good date sounded like. And Jen said, oh, I think that dinner and a movie is generally good for the first date. And I was like, how would you like to go to dinner and a movie?
Did we do a dinner and a movie? I thought we just ended up going to
There were no good movies out, so we just ended up going to, we had something to eat,
We
then we went to a park.
Playground and just sat on the swings and talked for like hours.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was a really good first date. How was your high school prom and show pictures? Do you remember our high school prom? So, okay, we actually went to 2 proms together. We went to junior prom and senior prom together. We were already dating at that point, so it wasn't a weird, awkward thing about like, oh, who should I take? And maybe I should ask you. And you know, back then, you don't have like prom proposals. Have you seen those videos?
Yeah.
That's too much pressure. It's hard enough being 16 and walking straight. So I feel like they went really well. I didn't wear much makeup back then, so for me at least it was pretty fun when I got myself made up. My friends were like, whoa. So my junior prom, I had on this mint green dress, and so we had you wearing like, did you have like a bow tie or was it like a long tie?
We'll have the
Find some
pictures.
photos. I know we saw the senior one, and that one was extra special because I actually sewed my own prom dress.
And I sewed my own tuxedo.
No, he rented it from the local men's warehouse.
I cheated.
Yeah. We thought we looked pretty cool.
Were you ever scared of being so young and so in love?
I think that, at least for me, I felt like because we started dating so young, we were both pretty realistic about like it being a high school relationship. We didn't take it too seriously.
Yeah, we mentioned before in one of the other videos about saying like instead of love.
Yeah, I really like you.
Yeah, with the understanding that there's going to be a big transition to college for the both of us, and we might not be going to the same place. So even though we really did like each other, we were trying to keep things realistic in terms of not exactly knowing how the future is going to pan out.
You did give me my first little like jewelry. What was that, like maybe 5 or 6 months into our relationship?
I know.
I had a ring.
Back then I just thought that like, oh,
that's what
like,
you do.
Yeah, you get someone jewelry, but then people were like, oh, you got her a promise ring? I'm like, what is that?
I don't think
what
we were
did I
like,
do?
But yeah, we were hesitant to be like, oh yes, this is forever.
Yeah.
But we were pretty in love.
Mm-hmm.
How did your parents feel about your relationship pretty early on?
They were like, oh, this is just their thing. Let them be happy.
But then when, probably after we had already started dating for like a year, then there were a little bit more tensions, which is kind of weird. You would think it would be like that right off the bat of like parents being super protective. It's like, oh, you're actually not like breaking up after like a month.
Yeah, here's some curfews. Here's some like boundaries and restrictions and whatnot.
I had a little period of time in high school, maybe around the 1-year mark. I kind of had some troubles with your mom and your sister, because I wonder if it was just like this like feminine energy of like not wanting to take you away from them. Obviously that all got better as I got to have a closer relationship with them.
Right.
But it was like awkward for a minute.
You just have to learn how to fit into the family, you know?
Yeah.
We liked each other, so we made it work.
I guess so.
Did you think you would actually marry each other when you were dating in high school?
I think the honest answer would be no. We were more about just like having fun and enjoying it for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't really just swept away by this whole notion of like high school sweethearts, you know? It was just, we knew there were a lot of changes that were coming.
I remember when we first started going to college, your dad was like, I would like Jen to finish college.
Before
if you were to ever propose, like,
yeah.
I just want her to finish that so she can focus on that.
I don't remember him saying that to you.
Well, it was a one-on-one conversation.
Mano a mano.
And that's something that I fully respected and agreed with.
But I will say my personal viewpoint of dating anyone was that I didn't want to date anyone that I would not potentially marry. So in that respect, I only wanted to have like serious relationships. That's just my personal tactic. How did you and Ben handle going to college? Did you go to the same college? If not, was the transition hard from dating in high school to dating in college?
So at the beginning, we went to separate colleges. I worked and went to a community college, and Jen went to KU right away. Mm-hmm. And so you moved about 45 minutes away.
We would dedicate our weekends to each other every single weekend.
Mm-hmm.
We would spend time together. So that's what happened for 2 years, and then Ben ended up coming to KU. But honestly, I would say that transition for us was pretty hard. You know, that's when we had a lot of fights and a lot of conflicts. Mm-hmm. We were just in really different places because when he was going to community college, like you were still living at home with your mom.
Yeah. Then when I moved to go to KU, everybody had just moved into their own place for the first time and was experiencing life without mom. And so things would get cooked and then dishes would not get cleaned for a long time.
So at this point in time, I had already lived on my own for 2 years. And I had already gotten into a system of like doing my own laundry, cleaning after myself. And then I would go over to their place and be horrified. And I would just go from place to place, cleaning like a maniac, trying to like have function in my life. I was trying to be like the mom of every situation and letting you guys know it is not good to just mother your boyfriend. They have to learn that for themselves. Mm-hmm. But that being said, like out of the two of us, you're like a very clean person and he's super good now.
Things have changed. People can change, Jen.
People can change.
Okay.
I'm
15 years
admittedly
later,
the more cluttered person of the two of us, but you know. But that being said, yes, that was a difficult transition period for us.
Yeah.
And you also were really into World of Warcraft at the time.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Okay, next question. Hi, Jen. Wanted to ask whether you and Ben ever broke up in the beginning stages of your relationship. I wonder if the person is the one. Do you ever want to break up?
So Ben and I have broken up twice, and they were both in college during that tumultuous time of like being sort of like 2 years into college where we had been transitioning through a lot of changes and honestly growing separately because you were on your path like in your parents' house going to college there, and I was on my path, you know, in a different city at the university, studying different things, being around different friends. So when we ended up finally being in the same place, we fought a lot.
Yeah.
It was really bad. So we had 2 different times, and I'm going to be really honest and say that for me, I felt like we had been together for so many years. See, we had never dated anybody else seriously. Ben was always like in it to win it, I feel like. For me, I felt like, you know, gosh, I've had all these new experiences for these 2 years. I'm becoming a separate person, and I just needed time to figure out who I was separate from the relationship. I felt like, how can I decide from just this high school relationship if this is going to be forever? How am I supposed to know that this is the person I'm supposed to like marry and die with? It just seemed too enormous for me. I ended up having 2 different times that I broke up, and I dated another guy. Well, two different guys. So, you know, I ended up dating them and then not staying together with them and then coming to the conclusion of, you know, coming back to Ben. So
I tried to be really realistic about it because it's what we thought could have happened back when we started dating in high school.
Yeah. After that point, that second time that we got back together, I felt felt really certain. Not just that you were the one, but that we were both at a point where we decided we were going to put in the effort. And I think that's a really important distinction. We tried to be really realistic about like, okay, these are going to be our new boundaries. This is how we feel about the future together, and this is how we're going to work on ourselves so that we're going to be happy in this relationship working for each other. It wasn't any longer this separated thing of like, okay, I need to be my own person and you need to be your own person. I think we kind of agreed that we wanted to do this jointly together. Yeah.
How did you go from dating to know that he or she is the one you want to marry? And when did you know that you are ready to settle down? Was there any doubt that you would ever end up together?
I think after that big breakup, we both kind of got to this point where we wanted to plan our lives out together.
I would have to totally agree. When I think about the things that I changed about myself and how I approached a relationship, it did take a very different change then. Like I took Korean with you, I started trying to eat your mom's food more.
Because it brought up a lot of these things that didn't become big issues until we broke up. And then all of these things came out that it's like, why haven't you been doing this? And I'm disappointed in this and that. When that was all on the table and we figured all of that out, we really both put in more effort.
Yeah.
That's like what changed everything.
Yeah.
So I think after that point, I don't think you or I honestly had any doubts. We wanted to get married. We knew this was it. So we got married right after graduating from college. At that point in time in Kansas, it was really, really common. It was not at all unusual. All of our friends who had been dating for a while, they all got married right out of college. So we ended up getting married at 23. After we walked for graduation, like a month later, we got married. And after that point, we were on our own. We lived together. We didn't really ask our parents for anything. We got our jobs and we took care of ourselves. How do you develop yourself if you've been with the same person for so long? Do you ever miss being flirty and single? I mean, in a certain way, we never really went through a phase where we were flirty and single.
I don't think either of us really had that kind of
we flirted with each other.
Then. Yeah,
but I would say the majority of that was while we were dating.
Yeah. I would say that the only thing that I would really miss is just the independence, especially like now with a child, of just being able to be like, oh, if I want to go to the beach, I can just get in the car and go there and spend like 4 or 5 hours there on a Saturday evening or something. I would also say that
our personality, even though the idea of going to the beach by yourself is nice from a freedom perspective, I think that we're both the kind of people where we would enjoy that experience more together. And we've kind of always been that way.
If you can't tell from our Instagram stories, we're kind of homebodies.
We like being at home.
Yeah.
We like being together. You know, we don't have to have like a super exciting life to be happy.
Yeah. Do you think it's good to wait and know when someone is the one? Or do you just go out and find someone you're compatible with, but maybe not 100% the one?
This is a tricky balance because nobody is going to be 100% the one when you first meet them.
I remember when I first started dating you, you had a list of qualities that you wanted in a future husband.
I did.
And I remember being like, I am none of those.
Did you guys ever do that with your girlfriends? Like, my perfect man wish list of like, I want him to be this and this and this and this. I feel like that's a normal thing for girls to do.
I didn't have a list.
I don't think boys did that with each other. Did they? Did you feel like that was a lot to live up to?
I mean, 16-year-old Ben was pretty intimidated. It was actually, we talked about it like a couple years ago, and you said that now you felt like I've grown into a lot of those roles.
Absolutely.
But it's a thing that, it's like what you were saying before, is nobody is going to come in and just be like, bam, 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 I have hit or exceeded all of your expectations.
Especially not when you're at different maturity levels.
Yeah.
I mean, it is really important to know the difference between your hard lines and your soft lines.
It's also important to hold your values permanently in place when it comes to things that you really care about and things that you really don't want to give up.
But if it is smaller things like, oh, I don't like how they dress or how they do their hair, like we're pretty good proof that Those things can definitely be improved upon.
Yes.
How have your daily conversations changed or evolved over the years? What was left to talk about once you already knew each other's stories?
We're still finding new stuff out, which is weird to say, but it's like, I've never, ever seen Jen in the role of a mom until this past year. I've never seen you transition to a different state before.
Or fluctuate this much in weight and our whole dating whatever.
There's been a lot of transitions in our life that has changed what we talk about daily.
I think
recently.
A big thing with me is that, you know how when you're first dating someone, you're always thinking of like, oh, what's a good question to ask them to like spark a conversation? Honestly, we still do that.
Yeah.
Like when we're driving together in the car, I will just randomly ask Ben, like, if you had to eat one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? You know, just like really stupid questions, but I don't ever get bored of finding out more, and we don't ever take for granted that we know everything.
There was something I read the other day about a quote from How I Met Your Mother, which is a show that neither of us have watched, I think. But one of the girls was dating a guy, and she was talking about how like he's a big Star Wars fan, and she says that she will be forever interested in it as long as they're together because that's important to him. And I think that that's also a big thing, in that the more that we've been together, the more that we show appreciation and respect for each other's hobbies.
Yes.
The more easier it is to talk daily and to have things to talk about that make you both happy. So like one thing that I like to do is ask Jen like, oh, your makeup looks really pretty. What did you use today?
Yeah, you do ask me that a lot.
And
or
sometimes
he notices what it is and he's pretty good at guessing what it is.
Sometimes I like to guess. Jen,
and I like that he notices.
Are you wearing the Anastasia palette?
Oh, no, not today.
Oh! I don't know that one. I haven't seen that one yet. But that's a new one, right?
I'm wearing the Naked Petite Heat.
Oh,
remember,
shoot.
this is only my second time wearing it.
I didn't even know that one was out.
I would say not our first period, but our first serious relationship for both.
Yes.
The easiest way I would say is to find a community. So if you have like a church that you go to, it's easy to become friends with friends and meet people that way. Or something where you're invested in a specific hobby. Common interests are always a great starting point. Yes. We were. Of each other, period?
I guess so. Or of the kiss?
I don't even remember because we were just friends with each other.
I think that's a good thing, is you were super friendly. I liked hanging out and talking with you.
Yeah, we were just like both easy to talk to. Boing.
Me.
Medium only. 45 minutes. Not like serious long distance, but long distance is tough.
I feel like real long distance people that are like hours apart would be like, yeah, no, that's not long distance.
But people have technology nowadays, which we did not have. You can like...
No FaceTime.
FaceTime. We moved in together right after we got married. We didn't live with each other before then. And it was the right time because we got married.
It'd be a little bit weird if we got married and we were like, we're not
we
ready
need some space. Although in college, we did spend a lot of time at each other's places.
That's true.
Yeah.
So that is it for Young Love. We hope you loved this episode.
If you guys enjoyed seeing our old prom pictures, give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you want to see us do more Ask Jen and Ben videos, let us know down in the comments. Oh, and if you guys are not already signed up for notifications, hit that little bell down there so that you'll know when we have another Ask Jen and Ben video coming out. We love you guys so much. We will see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Follow us on Instagram. We'll post more prom.